Hey guys, welcome back to Buzzer to Buzzer. All right, guys, so the ninth week of the 2020 NFL season has officially elapsed, and per the usual, we're going to be going over our top 5 key matchups, making some analysis on the games which have occurred. So without any further ado, let's get to it. All right, guys, the first game which we're going to be analyzing and going over is going to be the loss which our hometown team, the Chicago Bears, took against the Tennessee Titans, losing 24-17. Now, guys, I think we can all agree that the score shows the game being a bit closer than it actually was, with the Bears offense not being able to get it going and the Titans just rolling over the Bears throughout those first 3 quarters. We saw a great performance from not only Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, but the defense of the Titans as well. Our thoughts on this tough loss and this third consecutive loss for the Bears.
This loss was very disappointing, to say the least. I mean, the Bears' offense looks as incompetent as any team in this league, including the Jets and Washington football team. Their offense could not get anything going until garbage time, in which they scored 17 points. The Titans played really good defense. Their offense wasn't, Derrick Henry didn't have the performance he usually does, but they got the win in the end. Now I'm very concerned for this Bears team because, as Matt Nagy, he was brought in to be the offensive genius. And, this offense is completely 180 from that.
Throughout the entire season for the Bears, like they beat bad teams, but then when they play the good teams, like we've seen the past 3 weeks, they obviously lose. And the whole conversation of are the Bears contenders or pretenders, and starting to look at the Bears are pretenders right now, as you said already, and you did too, Rayon. Their offense is just not there at all right now. They don't have an offense. Their O-line too, not adding on to that, obviously with their backups was horrific, and leaving Nick Foles 0 time to scramble out of the pocket and make throws. And the only thing that's going for them right now is their defense, and we've all been saying that their defense can't carry that team to go anywhere, and they definitely need to look to change things up. But for now, I don't really think the Bears are going to make it that far if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think they covered where the Bears' woes are. I want to look at the Titans. Their offense definitely struggled, and obviously the Bears' defense is elite. But looking forward to their next week matchup against the Colts, they're going to need to play better than this offensively. The Indianapolis Colts offense is significantly better than what the Bears have. So the Titans definitely need to improve on their offensive play, especially if they want to come out with a win. They got lucky because the Bears are actually just that abysmal. But moving forward, this won't work against other teams. Also, this loss to the Titans begs the question for the Bears. Is it time for Matt Nagy to give up play calling?
Well, for sure, Harsh, that's a whole other discussion to talk about. Matt Nagy's play calling with the offense, it's something actually he came up in the past couple of days saying that if a change was going to be made, it's going to be made internally, meaning we won't find out. Is there going to be a leak? Probably yes. But going back to this Tennessee Titans games, I think the Bears, it's pathetic. The offense could literally not get anything going, looking like some hopes for some Bears fans saying, Mitch Trubisky, we want him back in, right? But I feel like regardless, even if he comes back in, we're still doomed on offense. The Titans, they were without Jadeveon Clowney as well, but they still put on a show. Got to give credit to Jaylen Brown. I think he had like 10 tackles. He forced a fumble. The Titans defense just honestly looked like it was playing better than the Bears defense throughout this whole game. They outclassed the Chicago Bears defense, and not to mention they stopped them on some important third downs as well, and ultimately just a tough loss, and the third loss now for the Bears in a row. All right, guys, now moving on to the second game, which we are going to be analyzing, that being between the Seattle Seahawks, who took their second loss of the season, to now the Buffalo Bills, losing 44-34. Now, guys, the score shows like the Bears gave a bit of a closer game, but the Seahawks just could not get the thing rolling, with Russell Wilson throwing 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles as well, something we never see a person like Russell Wilson doing, but got to give credit to Josh Allen throwing for over 400 yards and their run game as well. I'm going to start off with you. Your thoughts on this tough loss as a Seahawks fan?
I'm just going to say straight up that this loss and the performance that Russell Wilson had is not on him at all. If you're looking at our offensive line, if you look at the entire game, I watched every single second of that game. That offensive line looked almost as bad as the Bears with their third strings out here. It was so bad. Russell Wilson had absolutely 0 time to throw the ball. If you're looking at his when he was throwing those interceptions, even when he was fumbling, I mean, most of the time a quarterback fumbles the ball, it's usually not his fault, right? Because that's the O-line's fault. That's the D tackles obviously making a play because of the O-line's inability to block. And his interceptions, also same thing. So much pressure being applied on Russell Wilson. I mean, this man is not Lamar Jackson. He can scramble out of the pocket, but he's not that fast. He's not that mobile. And obviously, at a certain point, he can't always protect the ball. He can't make good throws, especially with how horrendous that O-line was. And he had some great throws. If you look at the overall game as a whole, bad throws with the interceptions. But I mean, the amount of turnovers, that was not on him at all. That was completely the O-line's fault. The defense was playing absolutely horrible. I think that was the worst defense I've ever seen in my life. Josh Allen just looking like, I don't even know. He just walked down that field. It looked like a bunch of third grade girls on that defense for the Seahawks. And I have no clue what happened. This is looking horrible for the Seahawks in the long run. I don't know if they can go far with this. They're not going to go far with this. And that's why I don't have him as a Super Bowl contender.
No, I'm going to have to disagree with Abi on this one. I think this loss is definitely a part of Russell Wilson's to blame. Russell Wilson just didn't have a good game. You look at their 2 losses this season, right? Combined in those 2 games, Russell Wilson has 7 turnovers. He's just not played well. And obviously, the blame definitely goes on the offensive line and defense. But as a quarterback in this league, who's probably considered the best quarterback, you can't have 2 picks. And I guess, some of those fumbles that he had are not completely his fault. But he's got to be more aware in the pocket. Also, this doesn't bode well for the Seahawks' Super Bowl chances because this defense is not going to get you anywhere.
I think the situation between putting blame on Russell Wilson is more than like 2 sides of a coin. I think there's a middle ground here. Looking back at that game, you can definitely blame one interception on the O-line. The other interception, I have no idea where Russell Wilson was throwing that ball. Again, same thing goes for fumbles. That one fumble, definitely O-line, it collapsed on him way too quickly. The second one, it comes down to pocket awareness. And obviously, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But in that situation, he showed poor pocket awareness, similar to, Daniel Jones in that situation. But regardless, I mean, he still played a bad game. Over the past 3 games, he's thrown 9 touchdowns, but he's also thrown 5 interceptions, and they have a combined record of 1 and 2 in those last 3 games. Is this sort of poor performance going to carry over next week against the Rams, whose again defense is going to be good? We've seen him play poorly against an Arizona defense. We've seen him play poorly against this Bills defense that's supposed to be considered in the better half of the league. Is this poor play going to continue against the Los Angeles Rams? As obviously we all know, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett is all this team has.
Well, I got a couple things to say. Firstly, Abi, now you know what it feels like to be a Bears fan officially. You can join the club and say, you know what it happens when you sort of have a person who can throw the ball like Nick Foles we have in our situation, and you got Russell Wilson, who's arguably much better, but an O-line who can't do anything, right? I'm for sure you felt those vibes this weekend, but you got to give credit to the Buffalo Bills. Sacking Russell Wilson 7 times, that's a career high, I think, for Russell Wilson being sacked in 1 game. Absolutely phenomenal. Josh Allen putting his name back up in that MVP race in the top 3 for sure, throwing for his career high, tying his career high for 415 passing yards. All in all, I think honestly, I got some hope for you. I feel like that we still got to see some DK Metcalf action. The brother catching for over 100 yards, a touchdown as well. But they still got hope. I think just like the Cardinals game, it might be an outlier. Hopefully, I feel like that with Jamal Adams coming back, Carlos Dunlap coming back to the defense as well, there is a good side to look out for. And hopefully that good side is enough to win these divisional games coming up for you guys.
Also, I just want to add what you said, Ryan. 7 sacks for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, to be honest, the Buffalo Bills are not even a top 10 defense in this league. They're a mediocre defense. And the fact that they got 7 sacks. No, I mean, you can't really say, come on, Harsh. You can't say they're top 10.
I want to say mediocre. I say top 15.
They're an average defense.
I put them at 12, 13 in the league. That's still pretty good.
Okay, but 7 sacks, I mean, obviously, it's not like the Seahawks have versed an insane defense and elite defense this year, but 7 sacks is just way too much for us to handle. And as you were saying, Ryan, with DK, I mean, as I've been saying this the entire year, the offense can't carry every single game. Their defense, every single drive they get scored on, they have the most yards against in the entire league right now. Like any bad team can score an insane amount of points against the Seahawks. The Bears offense could probably score a good amount of points against the Seahawks defense. And, the offense can't carry. And I personally still have Russell Wilson at the highest spot for MVP race. Some people might disagree. It's definitely a lot closer than it was in past weeks. But going forward, the Seahawks have to change things up.
All right, guys, and the next game which we're going to be analyzing is going to be the blowout win, which Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints handed to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, winning the game 38-3. Now, guys, I'm pretty sure I speak for all of us when I say that we were not expecting such a large margin of victory by the Saints. For sure, we were expecting a close game, probably a shootout between these two teams on a Sunday night game. But boy, oh boy, did Drew Brees have quite the night, and Tom Brady thrown for 3 interceptions without even passing for 1 touchdown. It was just, as Harsh like to say, an abysmal performance. I'm going to get started with Ari and your thoughts this game.
I was completely shocked by this. Watching the game live, things just weren't going well. You saw in the first couple of drives. I mean, Tampa Bay just couldn't complete any passes. And by the time they got their first down of the game, New Orleans was already up 21-0. The offense looked completely out of it. I think this is on the coaching staff and Tom Brady. You have to be more prepared. And Tom Brady, I mean, he had some horrible interceptions in that game that gave New Orleans a short field. I think this was a complete, lack of effort and failure on the Tampa Bay's part.
Tom Brady was looking like Nathan Peterman out here with those interceptions, with that playing. And one thing I was really looking forward to is seeing AB's performance. And even though he did great, the whole team didn't do great. So I really want to see when the Bucs offense gets it going, how AB does when the whole team is good. And talking about the Saints, wow, they are in my opinion, they're a top 3 team for sure in this league. I mean, when we had the Buccaneers at 2-3 the last 2 weeks in the power rankings, and when the Saints absolutely destroyed them, you got to put them in the top 3 conversation. The Saints are looking like an incredible team right now. Their defense, though it's not top 5 or anything like that, it's still a pretty good defense. Their offense, I mean, you could say whatever you want about Drew Brees. He's still a great player. He has his weapons now with Michael Thomas back, and the Saints are looking like a team to beat.
I mean, you guys covered it. I think the Buccaneers, where anything could go wrong, it did go wrong. Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions. I mean, that's very uncharacteristic of him, especially the way he's been playing this season. Sort of seems like an anomaly for this team, but I don't see it lingering with them at all. I just want to say that, with the return of Slam Boy and Emmanuel Sanders looking like a Super Bowl contender.
Exactly. I was talking about that. I was going to say, Emmanuel Sanders back, team's back, right? The Saints, I feel like a major reason was with the return. Okay, if you want to say Emmanuel Sanders is not the best wide receiver, I 100% agree. But you got to give credit. That man, he brings that team together, and that was so apparent throughout this past game. Not only his return, but Michael Thomas having a game as well. And this, I feel like this win, which Sean Payne and Drew Brees had, is probably amongst the top 10 wins which they've had in their era. I feel like this absolute whipping which they handed to the Buccaneers just went to show that it was probably, like Harsh mentioned, an outlier game, but it shows that the Saints are a team not to be messed with, and they're for sure moving up in our power rankings coming out tomorrow. All right, guys, and the 4th game which we're going to be analyzing is going to be the one between the Baltimore Ravens and the Indianapolis Colts, in which the Ravens move on to a 6-2 record, winning the game 24-10 behind a great performance from their cornerback Marcus Peters, who got 5 tackles, an interception, and a fumble as well. Guys, we saw Lamar Jackson having quite the game as well, and despite the Ravens losing out some players due to COVID-19 protocol and some injuries, they still battled through and got the win. Our thoughts on this game?
What I thought about this game, I mean, I thought it looked like the Colts were playing really well up until that fumble they had, in which the Ravens scooped and scored. But I think the Ravens, they went off their momentum, off their defense. Their offense played pretty well. So I still have concerns about Lamar Jackson's arm. He didn't have the best game through the air, but obviously, running the ball, they were very effective, and that's why they won this game.
Yeah, I do think that what works for the Ravens is when they focus on their rushing game, their running game. Obviously, as Arden said, we haven't really seen a lot of consistent passing games from Lamar Jackson, who's a reigning MVP. However, it definitely does work. They have a great defense, and they have a very good team overall. And with the Colts, I think we saw how they play when they focus on passing a lot. I believe Philip Rivers had around 43 passing attempts, and throwing for 0 touchdowns and 1 reception. I feel like the tide changed around that fumble time. And the Colts offense has always been very inconsistent. But I think that this was kind of just a bad game in general for them, and they will look to improve next week.
I don't know. This seemed like a game with a lot of mistakes for both teams. It comes out with a simple win for the Ravens, but both teams played poorly. I think the Ravens, they had definitely offensive miscues when it comes to passing the ball. But, Lamar Jackson has never needed to pass the ball to be successful. And I think, going on the narrative that, hey, Lamar Jackson can't throw well. I don't think he really cares. They get the jobs done. They get the wins without him needing to throw the ball, and I don't see their play style changing anytime soon.
Exactly, guys. You guys pretty much covered it. We didn't see some amazing performances from this game, but we did see the Ravens make their first comeback after halftime, being down since the year 2016 or something of that sort. But also Lamar Jackson, he did complete 10 of his passes 10 passes after the halftime, so got to give him credit for that. But all in all, the Ravens went up 6-2, and going to be interesting to see how they continue for the next couple of weeks. All right, guys, and now moving on towards the final game, which we predicted, that being between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, guys, although the Chargers just seems like blowing leads is something they like to do, they lost the game 31-26. And guys, despite the loss, Harsh, what did we see this game?
Jay Herbo, another great performance, swerving through all that Raiders defense, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. You got to give the man credit. They took him out for one play, actually, during the 2-point conversion when he was supposedly injured. And, that might have actually cost them the game. But, looking forward to it, yes, the Raiders won. They played a hard-fought victory. And, their defense stepped up when they needed to on that last goal line fade. Actually, 2 goal line fades in a row. But I want to talk about what lost the Chargers this game. It wasn't offense. It wasn't defense. It was special teams. It was with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and their punt returner muffed the punt, giving the Raiders the ball at the Chargers 30, allowing them to kick a field goal to take a 31-26 lead. Now, if the Chargers had picked up the ball at that point and not muffed the punt, they would have easily gone down the field. We've seen the Chargers offense all day running through that Raiders defense, and likewise for the Raiders, and we would have seen a much closer game and possibly a Chargers victory.
I really do want to say, after looking at Justin Herbert through this entire season, he's definitely like a lock-in, or I don't know about lock-in, but he's looking like the front runner for Rookie of the Year right now. He's having a great performance, a very consistent performance. Sometimes he throws an interception, but that's every QB these days. Speaking about the Raiders, I feel like they've really focused on the rushing game this against the Chargers with Josh Jacobs and Devontae Booker both getting a touchdown, both getting a good amount of yards. And their running game really worked against the Chargers defense. Derek Carr having a decent performance, not amazing. But overall, Justin Herbert's looking like a great player. He does have his inconsistencies and flaws. But I think that he's going to win Rookie of the Year. Derek Carr, underrated player. And I think that both teams are going to, or at least the Raiders are going to be good in the playoffs.
Derek Carr didn't have the biggest day off throwing the ball, but I think he was effective in game managing. Josh Jacobs did a lot of work. Their defense also played pretty well. They got the stop on that final drive against Justin Herbert. Yeah, but Justin Herbert looks really good. He's probably going to be a great quarterback for years to come, and Chargers should be excited for this.
It's about time that you start recognizing, Arian, the potential this man has. Got to give credit to the Raiders, obviously. Sure, Derek Carr, Joshua Jacobs, they got the run game going, and they won the game. But aside from the Chargers team, like everybody else, guys, Justin Herbert just proven to be a different breed. Harsh, you were so right for getting me involved with this man. This man is something special. Throwing for over 300 yards again, 2 touchdowns. Arian, I never want to hear the words inexperienced quarterback coming out of your mouth again to describe this kid. Sure, he's a rookie, but he's playing like a veteran. I feel like that although the Chargers' future is a bit iffy, his future is for sure definite. He's going to have a great future, but also give credit to the wide receiver core of the Chargers. Keenan Allen was balling out there, over 100 yards caught, but the Raiders simply outplayed them, and it's a tough loss if you're a Chargers fan. All right, guys. Well, it was quite the unexpected week filled with unexpected outcomes, to say the least, in this 9th week of the 2020 NFL season. As always, guys, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and comment down below your main takeaways from all of these 5 games. Love hearing what you guys got to say. And guys, take care. I'll hit you guys on the next one. See you guys.